A few weeks ago, I told you about 5 pieces of advice that held me back as a mix engineer. So today, I thought I would share 3 pieces of advice that truly helped me improve the quality of my mixes. If you've been doing this a while, then you probably already know these, but if you're new or still struggling, then these should help you improve yours too. So stick around, because frankly, the last piece of advice I'm going to give you was the one that made the biggest difference in the quality of my mixes. Number 3, do not aim for perfection. You will not achieve it because there is no such thing as a perfect mix. Everything about mixing is subjective. You can have 2 complete industry standard professional mix engineers listen to each other's mixes and find a reason they could have done it better. But to the average listener who knows nothing about mix engineering, they both just sound like really good industry standard recordings. So what does this mean for you? You're still learning. You can't get everything right all the time, all at once. And if you're mixing your own productions, then obsessing over getting the perfect mix can lead to you struggling to ever release any of your music. I say that from experience. So when you sit down to mix your song, make a few notes about the big picture items. What's the most important thing in your mix? You've got main vocals, maybe at some point it's a synth lead or a lead guitar. If you find 2 hours has gone by and all you've done is EQ the synth pad that's going to sit in the back of your mix that nobody's ever even going to really notice, then you're obsessing and it's time to chill. Now, 2 points I'd like to reinforce here is that yes, there is an industry standard, but that industry standard is, does this song sound good to the person in the industry who's going to release it? So even that is subjective. Also, don't take this to mean that you should stop learning or improving. I'm only saying be mindful of your obsessive tendencies and mitigate them so they don't interfere with your ability to finish projects. Number 2, use reference tracks. This piece of advice went in one ear and out the other probably 1,000 times before I actually stopped and tried it. I refused to do it at first because I wanted to write my own songs, I wanted it to be my art, and I wanted to be unique. And yet there I was bitching that my music wasn't as good as the professionals. It wasn't until my mentor at the time pointed out to me that this is not copying other people. This is listening to something that you like, that sounds good to you, and learning from it. It isn't about copying somebody's bass sound. It's about understanding the characteristics of those sounds and why you like them. Then you keep those reasons in mind while you create yours. For mixing, it's the best way to achieve the tonal balance of a track that you think just really nailed it quality-wise. It's not about copying their kick and snare, it's about listening to how they interact with one another. If you like a song because of its snappy snare and want to emulate it, but you listen to your track against the professional track and yours just sounds dull and lifeless, then you know you need to find a different sample, or you need to spend time adding more to it and mixing it so it sounds closer to what they've got going on. Listen to these songs and listen to where all of the different instruments are placed in the context of the mix. What's forward, what's back, what's to the left, what's to the right, what is accentuated. Try to mimic these placements with your songs and see what works and what doesn't. This is referencing, and it's the best way to learn how to mix. And a bonus that I discovered along this referencing journey helped me to deal with the perfection issue that we talked about in the last piece of advice. Because when I put some of my favorite tunes under the microscope and listened critically, I found that they were doing things that I thought went against achieving a balanced mix. And this rabbit hole led me to understand that balance isn't everything, and that a perfectly balanced mix can hurt a song more than it can help it. It depends on the song. And last, number 1, turn it down. I come from an EDM background, and we all know that EDM is the stuff that shakes walls and turning everything up to 11 is the norm. So I thought that, well, then I should probably mix with the volume way up because that's how people are going to listen to it, so I want to make sure it sounds good loud. That was a mistake that I truly, truly wish I had fixed earlier on in my journey. I would get my mixes sounding good loud on my monitors or my headphones, and when I went to listen to them on things like my phone, laptop, or TV speakers, they sounded so bad. Everything was totally out of balance. It was unlistenable. Things would just disappear from the mix entirely. My bass was super loud and boomy and not in the good way. And as I discovered, it's the opposite that's actually true. If a track still sounds good and full at a low volume, it's gonna sound good at a louder volume. I also obsessed over the low end of my track at the expense of everything else that people were actually listening to being clear and working well together. So I spent some time learning about the equal loudness contour, or you might have also heard it called the Fletcher-Munson curve. I realized that if I focused more on balancing everything within the frequency range that most people can actually hear at lower volumes, when I turned the volume up, everything just kind of fell into place, including the low end. The other incredible benefit of just turning the volume down, I could actually hear transients. So when I happened to be using compression or transient designers, it was much easier to hear the changes I was actually making. It was way easier for me to hear what was disappearing into the back of my mix that needed to come forward and what was sticking out that needed to be tamed. So I hope this helped you out a little bit. I would love to hear from you all. If you had any great mixing epiphanies, leave them down in the comments, or if there's things you're still struggling with and need help with that maybe I can make a video about, go ahead and leave that in the comments too. Make sure to like and subscribe on your way down there, and I'll see you next time.